Good morning. This is another new day here, and I'm going to start putting together this arch top on this cased opening over here. Well, it's actually just a drywall wrapped opening, but I'm going to put a little bit of a detail around it like I shown on that little 3D drawing that I did that will follow the curve and hopefully make this look nice. So I'm just going to leave this thing run, and I got some preliminary steps done. I've already got the grid relayed back out on the wall over again with the paneling that I have. And we'll take it from there. We'll let you see how it goes. This is a line that I preliminarily drew up there that follows that curve. I'm going to go ahead and make a plumb cut and a level cut because this is not big enough to make the whole wrap. Okay, I have some lines here that I put up on the wall so I can put it back exactly where it came from. That made the original marks. And just checking it, making sure it's going to fall within the lines that I need it to. And there's my level line there, and my plumb line right here. I'm going to have a piece that goes all the way across the top of this. That'll finish that off, so I can use this as a template to make the piece for the other half. I'm going to cut a little bit large because not all these things are symmetrical perfectly. They're close, they look right, but that don't mean they're going to be right when it's all put up. And I put them back to back, finish side to finish side, so there's going to be a left and a right piece made from this when it's done. That's the tracing. I'm going to go ahead and get the level cut made. You don't see this off camera, but this one I'm going to leave a little bit long. All right, I got those pieces for the arch top over top of this door here glued up. I got to wait for a while, so I've got some other material I got to glue up on top to get these details proper at the top of the stairs over to the other side of the door where the paneling is over top of the drywall, but the trim on the top of the paneling is what I've got all this extra drywall back at the upper landing part where I got to add a piece to the back of the paneling. And same thing where it's going to go around the door legs. That first 7 foot of the door has to have a return added to the sides of the trim that's going to go all the way out from top to bottom. So I'm going to do that for a while. Back later, there's a guy installing cabinets in the other room. That's all the other extra racket. All right, folks, it's another day here. It's raining outside, so I can't do a whole lot of cutting out there. I gotta still do that archway piece over here. That kind of gotten stagnated for the time being, but I'm gonna have to make more workspace inside to do that. It's kind of tight in here, but that's some of the conditions of the job sites that you got to deal with. Anyway, so far the progress has been I've gotten the panels. I had to order some 5 foot wide MDF for these 2 large panels. I wanted to do smaller panels, but the homeowner wanted large ones, just like the picture shows that I have there. And anyway, I got that done down to where the bottom's blocked out, ready for the baseboard to come in, which will be another step when the rest of the house is getting its base. We're going with a 7 1/4 inch tall base in here on the first floor, quite tall. Okay, hopefully the picture orientation's better. And hopefully you also don't mind my handheld. But anyway, I took the MDF panels and ran them along so that they covered up the carriages 100%. Then I took my flush cutting bit for my router, just like doing for Formica tops and such, where they use that to trim off the edges flush. That's what I did with the router going up and down the stairs. That way I got a nice clean line right across the face of the stairs. That way I can gauge my riser face where it's going to turn a 45 to make the turn that goes across from the riser to the skirt board going that way. Skirt board is going to cover about 1 inch of this, and I'm going to block out all of these with some scrap MDF, the leftover trim that I have here. And I'm going to block out each of these so that when I put the skirt board in, it lays flush or it lays plumb rather than trying to tip in at the top here. You can see I got about a 3/4 of an inch that I got to fill up all the way up through the top. But I ran the MDF all the way up just to give good backer at the staircase. This is all quarter sawn 2x8, so this should not shrink. If anything, none, because the way it's been sawn. These old ones have been in place since the turn of the millennium. I think 2000 was the build of the house, so they're not that old, but they've been seasoned well enough inside the house without being an issue for shrinkage. They've already shrank what they're going to do. So anyway, between getting the outlets cut out and ready to go for the electricians to finish them off, this is pretty much ready for the skirt boards. But I'm going to move on up to start doing the upper section. I'm going to have to break out my ladder like I did for setting the panels. And I got the one corner set, and that corner down there at the bottom of that piece, that's going to be covered up by the skirt board, which is all pre-cut and ready to go. I've done that probably a week ago while I had enough room to work with. And a 1/16 of an inch gap there, and I'll draw this radius through here. This is going to be meeting a piece of 1/2 inch wide material here, so I'm going to bring it in this 4.5 inch curve to meet that 1/2 inch flat, so I can have a flat to start that one panel up there and leave this little triangle open here and this little triangle open right here. I've got a preliminary plumb lines, level lines drawn for that also. But this piece coming across here, when it comes to meet this is going to take a notch beginning at the radius to where this has still got some beef left to it rather than some very thin edges trying to meet. Anyway, that right there is would be difficult if I brought those cuts out to nothing. So I'm letting it go into the trim, but you'll see how that goes too. Take another little break here. Okay, take the level. Double check if this is still level. And it's also a 1/2 inch above the other line. It's looking like it's a little small, but it is level. So I'm just creating an offset, if anything. And actually I need to go up because that one, I can see I'm low on that line over there. So I'm going to push it on up. Keep this thing steady. It's going to be a trick all by itself because MDF is pretty slick stuff. It doesn't. Okay, there's that one. I'll finish this one off the rest of the way. I didn't go all the way out to the end, and it moved just after I got off the end. All right, everything's cool with that now. Now, the side here, I'm also going to engage this vertical piece about a 1/2 inch too. So I'm going to now plumb this to a final cut size. And we're good there. And there you go. I'm going to take my track saw and cut that, cut this. After I finish it, well, I got to do some more layout here still. I got to get that 4.5 inch offset. So I'm going to make a little jig, a little scribe jig that will help me make that curve real easy without the pencil going all over the place. All right, so this is what I did. For my little scribe jig, I have 4.5 inch wide trim. So what I did, I took a scrap block of wood for some of the cutoffs that I have, and I measured down 4.5 inches. And then I set one screw here and one screw there, so that way when it rides that radius, these two screw points here will follow that curve. And as long as I keep my pencil on this little mark that I have here, that will allow that gauge, this gauge, to follow that curve perfectly, so I can make my top curve cuts. So I'll move on with that. Yep, very nice. Going to work like a charm. There's one. Move over the ladder. Okay, now this corner right here is where that piece of all right, I got the top radiuses cut and I got that one intersecting point leveled out. I'm going to take it on down and make my final cuts. I got the marks for the length for the left and the right where that's going to be cut. I confirm my level line here so that when this band comes across, it'll go ahead and meet this with a slight notch, but it'll all blend in and to where this carries on through with this bottom line, the top of the arch. And this little triangle over there meets everything like, well, at least like I'm hoping it will. This is all going to get cut off from that line going up. So I'm going to get this thing eased off a little bit more. Level spot where this vertical piece is going to go on up and meet. All right, I got the one horizontal piece just cut roughly the length. I probably still got to lose about another 1/8 of an inch or so off on the length on that. Now I got to correct that angle. It's kind of gappy down there, but I'm going to lay out this notch that this one piece is going to go into. And I'm going to mark the highest points, but I'm going to move them up so that they are high. And get my speed square or framing square. Now, I've got to draw through where my layout line is intersecting with the piece. So I'll know where the bottom of the cut's going to be. And I've already squared or marked that one. I'm going to square it up. Also, and hopefully this thing isn't going to fall down by the time it's all said and done. That's about a 7/16 drop. I'm going to mark 7/16. Hopefully the other side's 7/16. That will make it easy to rip on the table saw. And hopefully again, this has only got to drop 7/16, and it looks like it's all it is. That's a good thing. That will make the table saw cut very, very easy. Out to the table saw. Okay, I have the piece back in from the table saw, and I have to adjust my notches just a little bit. I have it not quite cut out wide enough. I'm going to get a little closer to the video here. My first layout, I need to get this cut here just a little bit more of an angle because it's hitting too hard. So this is the cutout that I'm making so I can keep some thickness up there on that radius piece. So those radiuses don't come down to like zero, like wafers. They'll flake and break off. They could probably glue up, but it's really contrary trying to deal with very, very, very thin MDF. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and make these two cuts. All right. I didn't want to stay up all by itself the first time I tried it, so I'm going to try it a little bit different this time because I tried to do it all from the ladder. See if I can get that to stay up. This side just didn't want to come up on this end right there, and now that's going to stay up there all by itself. And that correction cut that I gave it over on that end works out good. And see if this all sits down over top of this the way it should. And yes, between a little bit of glue, yeah, that's going to work. It's right down on my layout lines, covering them just a smidge. And I'll put this little piece in here to make that little triangle there. And then this vertical coming up with its appropriate notch will make that work also. So far, pretty good. See how well I can do this to keep this glue from running all over the place. Glue the flats first because I don't have to worry about glue dripping off of that. Sure of what's going to squeeze out. Hopefully I'll have a sponge and the size of the floor and protection. The protection of the floor will keep it from doing bad things to the finished floor. I'll smooth that out a little bit. Be nice if it just kind of jumped in there all by itself. Now it might jump in there. I don't know. Let's see. Well, I let a number of things get done without the video going, but you can see I got everything pretty much put together the way the picture shows. It's coming together. Obviously, I still got a few more pieces to put together. This radius has taken me probably a day and a half to put together. Probably could have done it faster, but I don't think it would have gotten done as good as it did. Yeah, there's a little bit of filler that needs to be done here and there, but I could have spent hours to try to get all those little gaps and stuff that filler can simply take care of. And I could have spent hours trying to get them tighter, but to me, for paint grade material, wasn't worth it. So if it was a stain grade item, that would be an entirely different ball of wax there. But anyway, pieces that I have are glued in. All the vertical joints are, all the archway is all glued in where the curves meet the horizontal and the vertical too, for that matter. Anyway, I'm tired. I think it's time to go. Y'all have a great evening. Bye-bye. Good morning. This is the start of another day, another week. Continuing on with the paneling on the wall behind me, and I'll carry on with that right onto the stairs. I'm going to let the video run for a while. I'm gluing every piece up on the wall. This will make sure that it stays in place over the long haul. And just in case this big piece of masonite, MDF, I'm going to glue the one side. That way, in case of this big piece of MDF, which pretty much is this has become now, since I got all these pieces tied together. Well, visually they're tied together. I want to make sure that there's some room to move so that I only have it glued to one piece. Now, the caulk may wind up bonding the rest of it together, but for now, at least I know that it can move a little bit that it needs to. Now this piece is already cut the length. I deducted the thickness of the trim at the top off the overall length, so I can use this piece to rest the horizontal piece at the top on.